First set 4 Army prosecutors are defending a plea deal for a Schofield soldier who got 23 years behind bars for killing his pregnant wife. As Daryl Huff reports, it renews concerns about how seriously the military takes domestic violence cases.
Last August, a month after she disappeared, investigators found Mischa Johnson's blood under floorboards in their base apartment and knew from Dewayne's phone and social media he'd covered up the crime, deceived her family, and met new women.
Those are circumstantial evidence to show that he's guilty of murder.
But even without Johnson's confession yet, Army prosecutors concluded the evidence pointed to a killing in the heat of passion. Under the military's criminal code, the prosecutor's office wrote, such evidence, no matter how violent, supports the crime of voluntary manslaughter and is insufficient to prove the required intent for murder beyond a reasonable doubt.
This is the most gruesome, heinous thing that we have seen in Hawaii. And sadly, though, she's not the first. She will not be the last unless we change things.
The military sets a 15-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter. Johnson pleaded guilty to 2 counts for his wife and baby. Prosecutors agreed that 2 terms would be served at the same time because one act killed both. The cover-up after the killing, obstruction of justice and false statements, tacked on 8 more years consecutive to the first 15.
To say that a life is worth 15 years behind bars, that's an absolute abomination. They need to rethink this in terms of what kind of penalty matches up with the crime. This is a situation where there's a gross injustice and there's a gross gap between the life lost and the crime and the punishment that has been handed down.
The Army defended the investigation as thorough and professional. The prosecutors followed the evidence, applied it to the law, consulting regularly and repeatedly with Mischa's family, and entered a plea agreement that best supported the interests of justice for all involved. In return for the favorable plea deal, Johnson told a story that victim advocates don't believe, especially his claim that he'd never been violent before until killing her with a machete he kept in their bedroom.
What are the red flags in a domestic violence relationship? Well, that's one of them. Why would this man have this machete right there? So I knew, and I know right now in my gut that there was likely much more harm that was happening to Mischa than we will ever know, unfortunately.
The family told Hawaii News Now they weren't aware of prior abuse.
I wasn't aware of any marital problems that they were having, but I told her, you can always come back home.
The Army has been under fire for years for failing to track domestic abuse cases. In fact, Schofield Barracks did the worst in a 2023 audit of case reporting, when of 307 domestic incidents reported to the Family Advocacy System, only 41 were reported to law enforcement.
I would like the military to do a little more for women.
I'm not satisfied with the military's response. Giving a family some kind of comfort, this is not comfort.
Tokuda says she will have a chance to ask the Defense Secretary about Mischa's death and other concerns for women in the military at a hearing next week. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Daryl.